Hello friends, today I'm sharing this little whimsical pumpkin quilt with you that I just finished. Now I made this a couple of years ago, the top of it, and I just put it away and I hadn't got it back around to quilting it until this year. So I decided I was going to get it done this year. So I made a video of how I quilted it and how I put the binding on it, but I don't have a video of how I actually made the blocks. But I'm going to try to share a little bit with you because I had some extra leftover pieces. So this is the block that I made. I started with a 6.5-inch square. Some of them were pieced and some of them were solid print like this one. And I just snowballed the corners, like you can see here, with a little 1.5-inch square. And then on the top part, I used a 1.5-inch strip. I put a little brown piece for the stem in the center of that. And then around the other sides, I put a 2-inch strip. And then I used a 2.5 border around all of that, and you can kind of see how it would fit in here. And then I made these cute little star blocks that I wanted to put in there. So my cute little star blocks go right here and right here between all of the sashings, between all of these sashings. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 because there are 3 across and 4 down. And I didn't put them on the outside, I only put them on the insides. Now these are made out of little 1.5-inch 1.5-inch squares that I made into little 4 patches. And then these are just little flying geese units. And then the little squares on the corners, and they're all 1.5 inches. But I just thought that was the cutest little thing, so I wanted to incorporate those into that. And then of course these are, I'm not sure if I told you this, these are 4.5 inches by the width of the block, which I think these turned out to be 12.5-inch 12-inch finished, sewn into the. Alright, so I'm going to show you how I quilted this, and hope you enjoy it. I kind of just made little, I call this semi-custom, because I did sort of custom quilt all the little pumpkins with the little curved lines, and then I got the idea of the swirls from this fabric right here. It's just such a cute fabric. And so I just did swirls all over everything else, and I just think it turned out adorable, so I hope you enjoy the video. Now I'm using a couple of Natalia Bonner's rulers. This one that you see me using now is the 4-in-1 mini, and I love this one. I use it a lot. It's just so handy for curves and straight edges. You'll also see me using the inside out mini when I'm doing the curves on the pumpkins. Okay, I'm just doing a little bit of free motion quilting here, and like I said, I'm just doing swirls all over except for the stars and the pumpkins. And my swirls don't have any true pattern to them. I call them crazy swirls, not squirrels, because I just go forward and backwards and every which way. I think they look really cute like that. Sometimes I double back and echo. So I'll give you a closer look up with those in just a little bit. I'm coming to the edge of my quilt, so I'll be repositioning that and advancing the quilt and show you how I floated the quilt top, actually the whole quilt. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Now those blue clamps that you just saw me take off, I got those from the Grace Company, where my frame and my machine came from. And they are what I use to hold my quilt on the belly bar when I'm quilting it. So I'm about ready to advance the quilt a little bit more. I'm almost to the end, but I'm showing you there how the quilt has been floated. First the backing, then the batting, and then the quilt top, of course. So I'm rolling it up, as you can see there. And then I'm taking some pins and pinning that quilt top down along the edge, bottom edge there, so that it won't move. I pin all the way through all 3 layers, and then it's not going anywhere. And then I will put my clamps back on there and tighten those up. You can kind of feel it's like a little ratchet when you tighten it up. It clicks. There you go. So I'm not putting my side clamps back on until I get my sides basted down. I'm not really using a basting stitch, I'm just using my normal stitch. That's a straight edge ruler there, and I can't remember the brand on that one, I'm sorry. But it's a nice long one, so I use that for the edges. Okay, then I'll put the clamps back on there. Move over to the other side. I have a set of rulers like that one too. One of them has the concave curve and one has the other one. I'll have to look those up and see if I can put them in the description. It looks like this time I did the swirls around the pumpkin before I quilted the pumpkin itself. But I think on some of the others, I think after this one I stopped and did all the pumpkins, and then I went back to the swirls. Yeah. As you could see when I was rolling up my quilt, I had quite a bit of batting and backing that extended beyond the quilt top. I like to do that when I can because it gives me something to clamp on there. If I didn't have that extra, then I would have to pull my leader out on that belly bar and hook my shorter backing to it, pin it on there, which that can be done, and I do that pretty often. But when I'm doing my own quilts, I try to leave enough of that I can just clamp it on there like that. It makes it really nice. So as you can see there, I'm using that mini inside out ruler to make those little curves on my pumpkins. And then I'll switch back to the 4-in-1 for those two inside ones, because the mini inside out was a little too big of a curve for those two center ones there. So I'll just pull my thread up and make a couple of little extra stitches there when I need to tie off. I never bury my threads. Some people like to do that, but I'm not one of them. And I've never really had any problem with my threads coming undone, so I'm okay with that. This is pretty much a scrappy quilt. At least all of the blocks that I use, the 6-inch blocks, those were all from scraps from quilts that I had done before. And I'm not really marking or measuring on those. They're not all exactly the same space apart. I'm just kind of eyeballing them. I kind of figure if anybody's going to measure those little things on my quilt, then they shouldn't be looking that closely at it. And last one. Another thing is you won't see me when I'm quilting these. You may not see me doing them in the same exact sequence. I may do the stem first on one and then last on another one. It all comes out the same, so I'm okay with that. Okay, from there I just went ahead and went back into my swirls. Okay, time to stop playing and get this little quilt finished. Put my clamps back on there. So you see me with my longer ruler there, just tacking that down. I think I have my stitch length set on 10 stitches per inch for this whole entire quilt, including the borders, and that worked out great for this one. Usually I'm somewhere between 10 and 13 stitches per inch, depending on what design I'm doing. The smaller the design, then the smaller the stitches. Like if I was doing pebbles, I would probably go to 13. I'm not the best pebbler in the world to start with, but if I'm using a blending thread, it's usually okay. So these are my last swirls on this cute little quilt. My quilt turned out to be 48 inches wide by 64 inches long, which is it's a medium-sized throw. I'm kind of tall, so I like for my quilts to be a little bit longer, my throw quilts. But that's just me. I like to wrap my feet up and have it all the way up to my chin. But this one will be a good one for a kid size or a smaller person, or just to throw in the back of a chair or a couch, sofa, just to have something cute and fallish. Alright, so we are coming to the end. It's always the exciting part. Now I like to cut mine off with my big scissors, my big pink scissors. I'm leaving a little bit of batting on there. I could have cut it, it's square enough that I could have cut it right along the edge there and not had to trim it with my rotary cutter, but I just thought I might take it up to my church and trim it up, because Tuesdays are our quilting days in our fellowship hall at church. We have a group of ladies that come and quilt, and I can put tables together and lay my quilt out and just make sure it's all nice and square, trim it up. It's wonderful. We have fellowship together. We have show and tell. We have several long armors in our church. We have one that does computer work, and then we have 3 that do other types of quilting. And so it's just always a lot of fun. We make quilts and donate the money to missions work, all kinds of things like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's fun to quilt by yourself, but it's also fun to get together with others and quilt. We also have prayer with our fellowship and our quilting. So yeah, we have a time of prayer and then a time of sewing and quilting and laughing and eating and just having a good time. So as you can see, once I cut the quilt along the bottom edge, I'm just pulling it down and cutting it on each side. until I get to the top, and then I will trim it off the same way on the top before I take my pins out. So this process just sort of makes it easier not to have to deal with all the bulk of the batting, extra batting, and backing, because I'll fold it up and put it in a bag and then take it to the church to work on. It just makes it easier. And there we have the finished quilt, all except for the binding. And we will be going to the church tomorrow. We quilt on Tuesday, so I'll be taking it to get it all bound and ready to go. All right, here I am at the church. Everyone has gone home except for me. And I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to film this, but I just propped my phone up on the inside of my sewing machine there. I have a 12-inch throat space on my machine. I have a jazz, baby lock jazz. I have one at church and one at home. And that way they're really too heavy to carry back and forth. But my friend and I bought one at the same time. And then she got a different machine that she liked better. So I bought her one that she had bought the same time I bought mine. So now I have two. These are the first edition that came out. They don't have anything automatic on them. So everything is just mechanical, and I'm okay with that. I have a walking foot on, and I usually try to use my walking foot when I'm doing my binding. Now I made the binding when everyone was still there, and I sewed it on to the back of my quilt while everyone was still there. But then after they left, I went ahead and decided, since I had it all laid out on those big tables, I would just go ahead and finish it up. So that's what I decided to do. Looks like I'm about to come to one of my corners. When I get to that corner, I will just fold the edge up. I'm sure you've seen this done before. If not, I have several videos that show it up closer. I'm just putting a couple little clips on there to hold it in place while I stitch it down. Makes a really nice little corner there. The walking foot just seems to help when you're sewing 3 layers of fabric and batting. I think I forgot to mention that my binding is cut to 2¼ inches wide. I used to use 2½ inches wide, but someone told me that about the 2¼ inch, and I tried that, and it really seems to work a lot better for me. So that's what I'm sticking with. Okay, so this binding job is finished, and I think it turned out really well. So I'm happy with it. It didn't take very long at all. As you probably saw, I stitched my binding to the back of my quilt and then flip it over and stitch it down on the top. Yeah, so I think it turned out okay. So I hope you will subscribe to my channel if you like what you see today. I love to watch other people's channels, and I usually wind up finding a tip or a trick or a design that helped me in my own quilting, and that's what I hope to give to others. So I hope that y'all have a very blessed day, and I will see you next time around. And until then, this is Nancy with Simply Quilting.